Is there a connection between the fall of Roe v. Wade and Obergefell? The connection between abortion and gay marriage? And why is the far left actually thinking and saying that this is the case, that these things are linked, and if abortion falls, then so will gay marriage? And what should we as Catholics think and do about that, especially given the fact that they have promised us a summer of rage if the Supreme Court does do away with Roe v. Wade? We're going to talk about that right now. Hi, Joe McClane here, host of the Catholic Drive Time. It's a Catholic radio show, talk radio show, Monday through Friday, heard across 50 Catholic radio stations around the country. You can find more about that on our website at grnonline.com/CDT. Today on the program, we had a great conversation with Dr. Jennifer Roback Morse from the Ruth Institute. And I'm going to share a link to that conversation. It's going to be in the description below, which, by the way, while you're there, smash the like button. That would be amazing. Or check out the link in the flyout up there. But it's an important conversation to have because, attacks on the Catholic Church are at an all-time high. It's amazing to sit back and see how many churches are being attacked almost every day now. And statuary is being destroyed, graffiti, or worse, tabernacles are being stolen. I mean, it's just crazy what's going on out there. So in light of a proposed summer of rage, what should we do and what do we need to know? And this is what's interesting, this proposed link between the fall of Roe v. Wade and Obergefell, abortion and gay marriage. I want to point out this article out of the National Catholic Register by Dr. Jennifer Roback Morse, because this is truly fascinating. How many times have you heard a homily on the dignity of human life at conception? It's getting more and more frequent. The pro-life community is rallied. They work hard. They have pushed very hard to get us to the brink of potentially seeing the overturn of Roe v. Wade, sending the abortion issue back to the states to decide. Many states are already poised to do away with it completely. Praise be to God. But what about marriage? How often do you hear homilies and public statements made by bishops or clergy to really defend traditional marriage? And how many of them have simply just given up on the issue and seemingly embraced the gay marriage cause rather than to defend Catholic Church teaching and morality, natural law itself, the very fabric of society? Well, that's what this article touches on today. And let me read it to you. The headline says, "The Supreme Court and Dobbs, for once, the sexual revolutionary aren't wrong." The sexual revolutionaries are not wrong to be fretting over gay marriage and contraception, but not necessarily for the reasons that they think. They should be worried regardless of any assurances the Supreme Court justices may give in their soon-to-be-released opinion on Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health. They should be worried regardless of whether pro-lifers are really as nefarious as they think. They should be worried for one simple reason. Once the court stops propping up the sexual revolution with so-called rights invented out of thin air, a lot of, quote, settled issues, unquote, will be unsettled. Yea and amen. She goes on to say, Dr. Roback Morse does, although in this draft of Roe, this draft decision of Roe, Justice Samuel Alito said it would not impact other so-called rights like, quote, gay marriage, unquote. Logic would suggest otherwise. Mandating an unlimited abortion license required the Supreme Court to invent rights in the Constitution that simply aren't there. There's no right to privacy, which the court claimed to find in the First Amendment. So where do they get this from? Article goes on to say, this imaginary right to privacy was the foundation for Griswold v. Connecticut and Einstadt versus Baird, as well as Roe. In 1965, Griswold found a right to, quote, marital privacy, close quote, which was the basis for prohibiting the states from enacting regulations on contraception that affected married couples. In 1972, Einstadt extended that right of privacy from married couples to unmarried individuals. This confirmed the suspicions of the defenders of traditional morality that the thing that you say you want, contraception for married couples with serious health issues, is not really all that you want. Impose one invented, quote, right, unquote, on the populace, and the legal infrastructure will quickly morph it into something much, much bigger. This is the excellent point. This is the heart and the real issue here. They say they want this, they take this in the end, right? They say they want a little, they end up taking a lot, and they never want to give it back. You have to fight tooth and nail to get back those rights, those freedoms, those privileges, that base moral compass. You have to fight for that because they're never going to give it back. This is called overreach, and it's pervasive through governmental policy and civil society these days. Article goes on to say Eisenstadt provides the foundation for federal policies promoting contraception, such as mandating that minors receive, quote, reproductive health services, close quote, without their parents' knowledge. Medicaid, the health program for the poor, actively promotes contraception. Contraception is a mandatory part for state Medicaid programs and is reimbursed at the most highly favored rate. Contraception must be made available to minors over the age of puberty, even without the consent of their parents. Under Medicaid rules, contraception must be free to welfare recipients, even without a nominal copay. And state governments have an incentive to actively promote family planning services, especially to minors, since their outreach, advertising, sex education expenses are reimbursed at the most favorable rate of 90%. These rules were enacted as part of the first major overhaul of the Great Society in 1972, the same year as the Eisenstadt decision. So look at what's going on here. Minors are given access to contraception even without parental consent. What are we seeing in schools today? We're seeing grooming happen in schools, and parents are finding out the hard way. There was this woman in Colorado just a few weeks ago that had to come out because her daughter was invited to art club after school. Turned out to be a grooming party for the GSA. And when she complained, tried to take action, speak to the principal, the school board, she got the runaround, and none of them wanted to do anything about this. And because why? They supported this idea. Parents are being locked out from these key and important decisions. As the Catechism of the Catholic Church teaches us, we are the primary educators of our children. The foundation of society is based on marriage between a man and a woman. Their bond in that intimate union between a man and a woman is strengthened, and the foundation for which life can come forth, be nurtured, is possible through this self-sacrifice, this institution we call marriage. And the sacrament gives us graces to accomplish this tall task. And this is at the heart. This article goes on to say, she's quoting from her book here, The Sexual State. Quote, "It is not now and never has been the government's policy to simply make contraception legally available and accurately labeled and then leaving families to use as they wish. The federal government has been and continues to be an active promoter of contraception. We do not have a libertarian policy in this area. Allowing people to make their own decisions about contraception has never been enough for true revolutionary," close quote. That's from her book, The Sexual State. Contraception is a grave moral evil, as the Catechism teaches. It blocks, inhibits, hampers, destroys the natural relations between a man and his wife, a wife and her husband, and it prohibits the way. It blocks the way. It confuses, it makes it difficult to bring forth life into this world. This destroys that natural law. It destroys God's design for mankind, for man and for woman. And that is why the church is opposed to contraception. Yet most Catholics today wouldn't know that. Most Catholics today wouldn't agree with it, which is very telling about the state of affairs and the trouble we're in. She goes on to say, allow me to add this. True libertarians who value limited government and individual choice should be appalled at this history. They will read Daniel Maloney's 2009 three-part series with smoke coming out of their ears. The First Amendment held pride of place in the Bill of Rights. The First Amendment was enacted to protect freedom of speech and religion. It says nothing about privacy, let alone abortion or the government actively promoting contraception to minors. And there is no right to, quote, gay marriage, unquote, in the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment was ratified after the Civil War to prevent Southern states from abridging the rights of ex-slaves. Only justices bent on legislating from the bench could interpret that as requiring same-sex marriage nationwide. Roe v. Wade was decided more than 49 years ago, but Obergefell v. Hodges, which mandated homosexual civil marriage nationwide, was only decided in 2015. Doesn't that make Obergefell a weaker precedent than Roe? Skinner v. Oklahoma. Now, Skinner v. Oklahoma is a case often cited by same-sex marriage activists in support of a fundamental right to marry. However, the context of Skinner was a eugenics law. Under Oklahoma law at the time, Mr. Skinner could be sterilized because he met the definition of a habitual criminal under the statute. He had 3 larceny convictions, including one for stealing chickens, by the way. When the Supreme Court overturned sterilization as a penalty, they were saying that sterilizing him amounted to an infringement on his fundamental right to marry and found a family. The state of Oklahoma was about to make poor Mr. Skinner damaged goods on the marriage market. In other words, the fundamental right in Skinner's presumes that marriage is fundamentally about procreation. Did you get that? Marriage is fundamentally about procreation. How do you build incredible human beings that builds an incredible society? Upon the bedrock foundation of marriage between a man and a woman. That bond of intimate union between them strengthens that foundation, that when they bring forth life, they have that solid base with which to do that. They are the primary educators of that child. It is not a village that raised the kids. It's not the community, the state, or otherwise. The parish, priest, bishop are not the primary educators of your children. You are, according to the Catholic Church and her teaching. Now, all of these other things can be useful in that process and helpful along the way, but fundamentally, primarily, boldly, marriage between a man and a woman, that is the way. That is the design that God intended for mankind. And he could have done it any way he wanted. He chose that. We know that because his very first command to make a man and a woman was to go forth, be fruitful, multiply, and fill the face of the earth. We find that in Genesis chapter 1. She says, maybe we'll get to talk about that sometime. There is one more important difference between Roe and Obergefell. She says, Roe galvanized the pro-life community and created a vibrant, authentically grassroots nationwide movement. After Obergefell, proponents of marriage threw up their hands and said, oh well, we tried, and moved on to other issues. The right to life movement never gave up. Yay and amen. And I talked to her about this in our conversation. Again, I've linked to it. It's in the video description below. Again, smash the like button on your way down or wherever you're watching this. Check it out. It was a great conversation. She was powerful and insightful. And I feel like this is really, really the heart here. The pro-life movement bridges so many barriers. You have Catholics and non-Catholics, people of faith, Muslims and Jews, agnostics and atheists, all coming together because they recognize natural moral law, the right to life from conception. And so they fight for it, right? It's a beautiful thing to see people from all over the world coming together to fight for what is true, right, and just. You don't quite see that in the defense of marriage. So many bishops, priests, clergy, let alone lay folk, are basically have given up. They have thrown in the towel. They aren't defending traditional marriage. They basically assume and accept these gay marriage civil unions. Look what's going on in the German Synod. They're openly promoting that. This is heretical and blasphemous and horrible. And we as Catholics should not support that because it lacks charity for the human person. It lacks charity for those that are struggling in same-sex attractions or other issues because it is not the best and good for them, right? We want to be charitable to them, and the most charitable thing we can do is lead them to truth itself because they will find true healing, true purpose, and joy and happiness in finding the design God had for them. And anything else from that, it's true for you, it's true for me, it's true for all human beings. When we run from God and His design for our life, we're not going to find joy and happiness. We're going to find depression. We're going to find anxiety. We're going to find all kinds of psychological, emotional problems. And I think that's very true. We're seeing that in society and the breakdown in society around us. She goes on to say, we are fighting transgenderism in 2022 precisely because we gave up on marriage in 2015. Obergefell denigrated marriage, which led to removing gendered words from legal documents. Husband and wife were replaced with spouse or partner. Mother and father became parents. They became alternatives to parents. No wonder we're fighting transgenderism in school. There is ample precedent for the Supreme Court making mistakes. In the 1858 Dred Scott decision, it said that, quote, black men had no rights, white men is bound to respect, close quote. Roe and its misbegotten progeny declare in effect that the unborn person has no rights to born person that it is bound to respect. If Supreme Court does overturn Roe v. Wade, other invented rights will be up for grabs. And I certainly hope that is the case, because it is time for us to return and defend traditional marriage between a man and a woman and end the plague of divorce, contraception, gender ideology, and confusion. It is not charitable and helpful to humans. It is harming them and the world around us. And that's a Catholic take on the news today. All right. Join us on Catholic Drive Time. Again, go to grnonline.com/CDT for more information on how you can tune in Monday through Friday to a Catholic Drive Time show that covers the news, keeping you informed and inspired all the way from the Vatican to the White House and all points in between. And it's a great time, and we enjoy the CDT insiders that hang out with us there. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share. God bless you. God love you. And we'll see you on the next video.